Hello everyone. Let us discuss on the topic energy flow and trophic structure in aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems. In this session, we will learn about the importance of ecosystems and energy flow and what do you mean by the trophic structures. So here, ecosystems are structured by the flow of energy from producers to consumers, and the trophic structures describes the hierarchy of the organisms in an ecosystem based on their feeding relationship. And energy flow is a critical factor in maintaining ecosystem stability as organisms rely on each other for survival. Coming to next slide, energy flow. So what do we mean by a flow? A flow is something, a movement of something from one object or one particular thing to another thing. So here energy flow means refers to the movement of energy through the various trophic levels from producers to consumers and decomposers. So here we all know that primary energy source is sun. So the green plants will absorb the sun's radiation in the form of electromagnetic waves, and this energy is then transferring to the primary consumers, and next it transfer this energy to the secondary consumers, and at last this transfer to the tertiary consumers, and this will be decomposed by decomposers. So in this, primary producers are referred as plants, green plants or algae. They are the producers who can trap the solar energy and synthesis their own food, so they are known as producers or autotrophs. In this diagram we can know that the first producers is green plants. Next, coming to next trophic level, or in this diagram we can understand that the first producers or primary producers are green plants, and these plants are eaten by any herbivores or insects or rabbits. That are the primary consumers. And going to the secondary consumers, it can be birds or foxes who eats the primary consumers. And next to the tertiary consumers are the lions or wolves or tiger. They are called the apex predators. So these are called tertiary consumers, and these are again coming back to the atmosphere by decomposers. Decomposers can be fungi, earthworm or bacteria. In this diagram we can see from each session they are moving one by one, and the energy transferring is only 10% of the energy. Other 90% is loss in the form of heat energy. In regarding to energy flow, we can say two laws of thermodynamics. First law of thermodynamics is energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it is converted from one form to another. That I told before, like potential energy is converted into kinetic energy. And second law of thermodynamics is heat energy is released when energy conversion occur. That I told, on each trophic level 10% of heat energy, 10% of energy is only transferring. Other 90% of energy is loss in the form of heat energy. Coming to next slide is trophic structures and levels. Here trophic structure means the hierarchical organization of a organism according to their feeding relationship. So trophic levels can be categorized based on their role in energy transfer. First one is producers, that is also called autotrophs, which means they can capture the energy directly from the sun and produce their own food, so they are known as producers. And these producers now are eaten by primary consumers, also known as herbivores, feeds on the producers. Next, these primary consumers are eaten by the secondary consumers or carnivores or omnivores, which eat the herbivores. Next is the secondary consumers are eaten by tertiary consumers, and these are known as top predators, or we can call as apex predators. And this cycle will again repeated in the atmosphere. So for this, energy should go back to the atmosphere. For this we need decomposers. So decomposers are given. Decomposers can break down the dead organic matter and recycle the nutrients to the atmosphere. Decomposers can be bacteria, fungi. Here, decomposers can be bacteria, fungi, or earthworm. It depends upon the type of ecosystems. In this, we know that energy flow is only in the unidirectional flow. It cannot be come backward, or it cannot be bidirectional flow. Energy moves in a single directions from producers to various consumer levels. And also I told before that the transferring there is a 10% rule known as, like, about 10% of energy is transferred from one trophic level to the next, while the rest is lost as in the form of heat. While rest means 90% of energy is lost in the form of heat energy. So this limits the number of trophic levels. That's why the predators are fewer in number, and also this ecosystem got a pyramid-like shape, that is be known as energy pyramid. We know that this pyramid shape is because of the 10% of rule law. Coming to next slide, we will discuss about the trophic structures in aquatic and terrestrial ecosystem. So first we will discuss about terrestrial ecosystem. Here the concept of this trophic level is discovered by the scientist Raymond Linman in 1942. So here we already discussed what do we mean by trophic structure. Trophic structure is the hierarchical organization of an organism according to their feeding relationship. So in terrestrial and aquatic, it's almost similar, but it's only different in the producers. So in terrestrial ecosystem, it's include forest, grasslands, and deserts, etc. And in this also we have producers, consumers, and decomposers. In this ecosystem, we can see the producers are plants like green plants, trees, grasses, shrubs, and this can convert sunlight into the chemical energy via photosynthesis. Next, this will be eaten by the various level of consumers such as herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores, and this will be dead or decayed matter can be done by the decomposers such as fungi, bacteria, and earthworm. Because this is terrestrial, so we can see the earthworm as here we can see earthworm as decomposers because it's a terrestrial ecosystem. In other way, in aquatic ecosystem, we can't see the decomposers as earthworm because it is in water. In this slide, we can clearly see what is happening in the terrestrial ecosystem, that before I explained, like producers, like that is also called autotrophs. These plants capture the sunlight and produce energy through photosynthesis. Example is trees, and these trees or grasses can be eaten by any of the herbivores such as deers, rabbits, or insect, and this insects or herbivores can be eaten by the secondary consumers such as birds of prey or foxes or snakes, and snakes can be eaten by the tertiary consumers or the top predators known as lions, wolves, or hawks, and these are again going back to the atmosphere by the decomposers such as fungi, bacteria, or earthworm, which will break down the dead organic matter and recycle the nutrients and back into the ecosystems. In this slide, it's showing the food chain, grazing food chain, how this happening in the ecosystem. So the first is sun, then green plants are eaten by grasshopper, then grasshopper is eaten by the frog, then the frog is eaten by the snake, and at last by the hawk. And this hawk can be decomposed by the decomposers such as earthworm, fungi and bacteria. And in this process 90% of energy is lost as in the heat and metabolic activities, leaving only 10% available to the next trophic level. So this concept is invented by Raymond Linneman in 1942. He is the first scientist to bring out the 10% rule law. In this slide, we will deal about the aquatic ecosystems. So, in last slide we deal about the terrestrial one, and the difference between the aquatic and terrestrial here is only producers. Other all trophic levels are almost same. So in here producers are primary phytoplanktons. Planktons or phytoplanktons means it is a small microscopic algae or plants which can capture the sun's energy. So these phytoplanktons are eaten by zooplanktons. Zooplanktons are the small microscopic animals of fishes or aquatic birds or marine mammals can be the consumers, and those consumers can be eaten by or decomposed by the decomposers such as bacteria and fungi that break down the organic material. In this slide we can clearly see how this phytoplanktons are converting the sunlight's energy, and these are eaten by the primary consumers. So the producer here is phytoplanktons, and the algae, it can be also known as the autotrophs, and converts the sunlight into energy via photosynthesis. These phytoplankton are eaten by the zooplanktons. Organisms which feed on phytoplanktons and algae are known as primary consumers or herbivores, and this now again eaten by the secondary consumers or carnivores such as small fishes, jellyfishes or larger zooplankton. And this can be eaten by tertiary consumers like top predators or also known as apex predators. The predators that feed on secondary consumers are known as tertiary consumers, such can be shark, dolphin or large predatory fish. Here in this decomposers only can be bacteria or fungi. In terrestrial it can be earthworm also. So the difference here it is in the producers and decomposers. And in this slide we will see about the energy flow. This is same as the terrestrial ecosystem. Like here is also sun is the primary source of energy source. So this sunlight is penetrating the surface water. So this energy or sun's energy is absorbed by the phytoplanktons which are present on the surface of water, and this phytoplankton are eaten by the zooplanktons, and this trophic level is continuing up to the decomposers. Here also 90% of energy is lost at each step, and 10% is transferred to the next trophic level. Here the factors can be depth of the sunlight penetration and water temperature and nutrient availability. These are the factors which can impact energy flow in both the ecosystem, terrestrial and aquatic. Coming to next slide, here it's given the comparison of terrestrial and aquatic ecosystem. So here the only difference between the terrestrial and aquatic, it can be from producers, it is plants in terrestrial ecosystem, and in aquatic it can become phytoplanktons or algae. And in here in terrestrial primary consumers are herbivores like deer, insects, etc. And in aquatic it is zooplanktons, which means microscopic animals or small crustacean fish. And here the secondary and tertiary consumers in terrestrial, it can be carnivores like foxes or wolves, and in aquatic system it is predatory or marine mammals or birds. In decomposers can be fungi, bacteria and earthworms. In aquatic it can only be bacteria or fungi, because in earthworm cannot be found in the water. And here the energy flow is like vertical, ground plants to animals. In aquatic ecosystem, energy flow is like vertical and horizontal. Both can be and it's in according to the water layers, horizontal energy flow. Next slide is dealing about role of the decomposers in both ecosystem. So while seeing the energy pyramid, we can see that we will not give the decomposers on the top apex or apex position, because only up to tertiary consumers we are showing in the pyramid, but the role of decomposers is very much important in both ecosystem. Decomposers are vital to nutrient cycling, ensuring that essential elements like carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus return to the ecosystem. This can be done in a terrestrial ecosystem by mainly breakdown of the soil by dead plants and animals. In aquatic system, the decomposers break down almost all organic material at the depth, particularly in the bottom zone. Here, this diagram shows how the decomposition process is working. Coming to next slide is the importance of energy flow and trophic structure. So we know that energy flow is the heartbeat or the lifeblood of the ecosystem. Without an energy flow in the ecosystem, this ecosystem can come into an imbalanced one. So energy flow is a critical for maintaining the ecological balance. Trophic structures ensure the stability of food webs and nutrient cycling. If there is any disruptions at any level, examples like extinction of a species, it can destabilize the entire ecosystem, leading to consequences like overpopulation and certain species or collapse of the food chain. So this energy flow and trophic structure should be maintained to get an ecological balance. Coming to conclusion of this topic, we know that energy flow is the heartbeat of the ecosystem. So energy flow and trophic structures are the essential for functioning of both terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems. While the basic principles of energy transfers are similar, and differences in producers and consumers shape the unique dynamics of each ecosystem. Understanding this process is crucial for conservation efforts and maintaining the ecosystem health.